Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready?
On today's episode, we welcome Arianna. We discuss the importance of soft skills and visionary entrepreneurs who often struggle with back-end operations. We talk about the misconceptions around delegation, the need for systems, and the importance of identifying one's zone of genius. Also, it's important to look at your business departments, along with the challenges of transitioning into a CEO role, setting emotional goals for stability rather than just financial metrics.
If this conversation sparks your desire to strengthen your own soft skills, we invite you to check out our Soft Skills Studio, a space where purpose-driven entrepreneurs like you gain practical tools to lead confidently and communicate effectively. You'll find the link in the show notes to learn more and join our growing community. Now let's get to the episode.
Welcome to our show, Entrepreneur Encounter. Arianna, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself and how soft skills have been a part of your life.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Hi, I'm Arianna. I'm a fractional director of operations, and I help multi-six-figure visionary entrepreneurs develop systems in their business to make them scalable and stable and helping them eliminate kind of the roadblocks that keep a business from growing. Soft skills have played a big role. And one, identifying that this is the career that I should be in and realizing that it was the soft skills that I naturally have and have put effort into that have made it clear this is what I should be doing and how they continue to help me grow as an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. It's so funny when we have conversations with other entrepreneurs and talking about soft skills. As entrepreneurs, we have to dig deeper into ourselves, right? Because when you are starting a business, you start a business because of XYZ. Then now you have all these like technical skills. You know what your job is, but do you actually have the willingness to grow for yourself and for your business? Because it's all connected. Because the way that you are in your personal life is going to affect the way you are in your business.
I completely agree.
So let's start with a big question from what I gathered with Sarah's notes. Why do visionary entrepreneurs often struggle with back-end operations? I have a wedding and events background. And that is something that I noticed in that industry. The more designer or creative focused a wedding planner was, the more they struggled with the timeline creation or keeping track of vendors or all of that admin workflows. They held it off until the last minute and then they were stressed. And that's worked in my favor because then I would come in and say, hey, let me support you in this. But why do you feel like they struggle with that sort of operation?
Well, I too have a background in weddings. I was a wedding photographer for 9 years. And so while most of my colleagues were struggling with timelines and like managing, I was like, hey, I made a workflow in Dubsado. And they're like, what? So I totally can relate to that consistent. And when I say the word visionary, I'm typically talking about two types of people. You have your creative designer people. You also have your like neurospicy, neurodivergent, like they have a million ideas and they're really struggling. They're wanting to execute on all of them. So a lot of them, it's very similar in that creative industry as well. Like they have all these ideas. It's about the vision. It's about the end goal and the end result. And they're not really focused on how to get there. They're just really focused on the end goal. But what typically happens is they're trying to achieve multiple problems at the same time or solve multiple things or offer multiple services. And as a result, they typically burn themselves out because there's no structure. So typically having someone like me come in and be like, this seems overwhelming. They're like, it is, but I'm fine because that's normal for them. Is me going, okay, but can you replicate this? Can you hand this off? Can you scale this up? And they're like, well, no, because I'm doing all of it and everything is stored in my brain. And so it typically creates a very beneficial relationship to have your visionary who keeps the business going and have your creative ideas and come up with new things, alongside someone who's like, great, I built a whole foundation and a whole system and automation for this so that you can do this and hand it off to your team. And that makes the business able to scale.
I love that. I believe Dana and I are both on the same page with this, like workflows. You have to have a system in place. Like I know for myself, I have a million ideas, but over the last year or so, like I've stepped back. I'm like, I need to focus on this. This is what I'm really, really good at. So let me get really, really great at it. And then when this is where it needs to be, then go on to the next thing. Because it's great to have ideas, but it's like, okay, well, can you actually do it and put action into it? Because if you're overwhelmed or burned out, then what's going to happen? You're going to want to throw in the towel. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
That does make a lot of sense. And then you get to like the next step of scaling, and then it's the overwhelm is on overload. And it sounds exciting to be big and have a team, but if you're not delegating or you're still very hands-on in the operations, you're never going to get to that vision that you have. So I guess, what are the biggest misconceptions that you've come across with delegation? I feel like there are many, but what are the ones that like really stand out that you see common and that we could benefit from?
One thing that I think people often assume is just because it's easy for you doesn't mean it's easy for other people, or that it's automatic. That's where soft skills do come in. There are all skills that we're very natural with, or might really be something that we've cultivated that make it really easy for that crazy idea we've had to be something we do enough to sell and grow a business or grow a TikTok or grow a following, whatever it took to make that business work. But then we just think, oh, I'll just show someone else how to do it and then they can repeat it. And they don't have the same one-to-one skill set, which usually ends up meaning they're not able to replicate you. And then you find this sense of like, well, you're not doing what I would do. So it's really about not putting so much ownership on the service that you do and realizing that it's more important that you build a system and that you build a way to get to the end goal. And that is what is handed off. I know one thing I'm working on myself is like the thought of scaling my business is I have to realize as much as people enjoy working with me, that's not technically what I'm selling. It's not just me. It is the end result of working with me. And so I would need to replicate that to scale past myself. I need to replicate my process, not necessarily myself, my voice, my actions. So that's why I got a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck on is, well, I just need someone to be me, but you can't. Like, that's just not possible. And it will leave you feeling very, very frustrated that they're not being you. The other thing is the VA is not always an answer. Like, you don't just get a VA and they solve all your problems. So I got to fix all your systems and build your business. They usually are there to execute. And if you don't have systems at all, they're not going to satisfy that need.
I can't count the number of times I've said I need a me for me.
Oh, that's too funny. I mean, sure, if you want to clone yourself, but that's not going to happen. Like,
and it's very expensive.
Oh my God. If someone is open-minded enough to want to replicate and or sell their systems, how do you help someone do that? I feel like that's where I'm leaning towards of, okay, I feel called out because I know I've said it to Sarah and many other people. I need someone like me to help me the way I help other people. And I do feel like I do when I'm on coffee chats, say like sell myself as opposed to I share my organic marketing agency. I'm not doing that. I'm selling me. And that's probably why I have a hard time letting it go. I'm still doing a lot of things. So how do you help someone like that with the, I don't know if it's a mindset shift or honing in on their systems? What is that?
It is literally a combination of both. When I talk to clients, like I do some form of coaching because in the one-to-ones, I'm kind of also working on mindset. Like, hey, you gotta let this go. You gotta move on, baby girl. Like, we can't keep doing this. But I also am trying to align that with an actual result, an actual process to make it happen. So I have a client right now and she's got a 7-figure company. When I first started working with her, she had a 5-figure company. Like, she'd only generated less than 5 figures in a year. And within a year, we'd managed to get all the way up to over $1 million. The problem was making sure that in order for her to do that, we needed to be able to hand off her framework and her deliverables. And so that she can sit in the zone of genius. And it took us time. We're now 2 years in, we've made modifications, but it took time. And it started with, how do we hand it off? what is the output that we're going to ask other people to do that will be successful, that won't hurt our business? And where do we need to sit to feel good? And one challenge that does come up for a lot of entrepreneurs is your skill set and your zone of genius also happens to be what you're selling. So it feels comfortable to stay in the delivery space. It feels good to keep being the marketer or keep being the face of the company, which is why I always start with kind of understanding what your goals are. Because if your goals, like you said, Dana, if your goals are to bring other people in and not stop selling just yourself, well, that's a marketing shift. That's a team shift. That's a delivery shift. And if your deliverable is you, then you're never going to get out of you being the thing, right? And someone has to still do sales. If you want to stay in the I'm selling me space, who are you bringing on to handle sales? Who are you bringing on to handle the back end work? Who's handling all of the admin stuff? Who's doing the financials? If you can outsource all of that and stay the face of the company and find ways to scale you up, great. If that's not possible, then you have to rework it and you have to put yourself in a different zone.
Okay. So you could essentially still be selling yourself.
You've got to outsource where there's zone of genius and there's zone of excellence, right? Zone of excellence is probably what a lot of entrepreneurs do. They step into a business and they can solve a lot of problems. And a lot of businesses are built literally pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like you're finding tools and you're solving things and you're band-aiding your business and you launch it. And it does great. Like my client who got to 7 figures, she started out just with a great TikTok. And people were like, please fix this for me, until she could start her own business. Like she just was able to do that. She was great in the marketing and sales. Now that we're a year later, where is her zone of genius versus the fact that she can do the deliverable? Well, she didn't want to keep selling the deliverable, but she's very good at sales and marketing. She doesn't want to do what she was offering. She wants to sell what she is offering. So what did we do? We built her business around that. We took all the service delivery offers and built departments for them. She lives in the sales and marketing space and she's the CEO. And the only place where she's really involved is when she's got to put her face out there and sell the company. She still uses herself. She's changed how she promotes herself. She talks more about promoting her team and she talks less about I do this and more about we do this. So there was a shift there, but she's in her zone of genius. And that is causing her to make lots and lots of sales because that's where she's really good. So for you, Dana, what's your zone of genius? Where do you find that you are best? Think about delivery, think about whether it's the back end, whether it's managing clients. Where do you find that you have the best return for your investment of time?
I'm going to have to think about that. This year is invest. That's like my big focus. And so I'm investing in the systems and the workflows, the operations to help get me out of it, but also to scale. But I didn't really have that mindset or I guess focus or understanding of I can use my face to sell my business called Dana's Desk, but Dana does not have to be doing all the things. And that's what I need to work on, figure out what my zone of genius is. I very much am a visionary and like, oh, let's think of all the ways we can market your stuff in an organic way. So your bottom line, blah, blah, blah. I know the things I don't like to do, and we could be here all day. So for the sake of time.
All those things you don't like to do are definitely things we develop systems so that you can outsource them. And I'm always a systems first, outsource second. And unless you're outsourcing the system build, obviously you need that, but systems should generally be done first before you bring in that person to maintain a department. So before you hire someone to work in service delivery, how do you deliver your workload? How do you deliver your marketing services? But for you, like if it is Dana's Desk, if you enjoy being out there and selling yourself, you've got to figure out where the handoff is. And that is how you start to shift. And you change your marketing plan to support your long-term goals, which is I am selling an agency. I am not selling me. So if you come into this business thinking you're going to work with me only, then I'm not positioning myself well on my marketing. I've got to shift my marketing to make that clear. And then it becomes a development of your marketing plan. And that's why as a director of operations, I'm looking at all aspects. Because your marketing has to shift and your positioning has to shift to align with your business goals and your financial goals and your team growth goals. And I have to look at all of those areas to make sure how they work together.
Okay.
I love this perspective. I've thought many of times, I try to look into the future. I think all entrepreneurs at some point should. Like, where do you want to be in 5-10 years? I have an idea of where I want to be, and I would like to working on the fact that like I'll take the steps to get to that. But when a lot of the times when entrepreneurs start their business, they're solo. They don't have a team right then and there. But I love the fact that, you need to hone in on what you're really good at and then make those departments. I really like that. And I think a lot of the times entrepreneurs don't like to hear that because it almost sounds corporate-y in a sense. But in reality, you're building a business and then you do need those departments. I know in 5 years, I don't want to do everything. I know that for a fact. Like, I want to do whatever I'm really, really good at. And then I'm going to build the team out to make sure that everybody has what they need.
Exactly. A conversation I have with all of my clients when I'm first meeting with them is that whether you are one person or a multi-million corporate company, there are still 7 departments. You wear all those hats, but there's still 7. And the 7 that I always go to that are great starting points are there's your operations, there's your team and scaling, there's your financials, there's your customer experience, there's your personal growth, there is your, I'm going to forget them, your marketing. And then there's one more that I always forget. It'll come to me later. But these 7 areas are really core to your business. And the problem is you're wearing all the hats. So you're thinking about how sales and marketing impacts your financials and your financial goals, which impacts whether or not you can grow your team. You're doing all of it. And so usually as the role that I play, I walk into these businesses, and why I say I do some coaching is I'm being the person who says, you're just CEO right now. What do you want? Pretend I'm the one representing the guy who's bringing you the report saying, here's what your goals are for the operations department. Here's our projects for the next quarter. Here is our KPIs that we're tracking. Here you go. And then you go, great. And I feel like my role tends to be in these companies is building that out, is making sure that each department somehow, some way, whether it's a third-party vendor or someone in your company, someone is managing this and delivering back to you KPIs. If we can automate it, great. And these smaller companies, I can automate operations and send you a report. And these bigger companies, or if your goals are to scale bigger, you are going to need people to be responsible for that output of information so that you can just sit in that CEO seat and say, I work here and this department's doing great. These KPIs look good. That doesn't look good. What's going on? Let's figure it out. And these 7 departments report to you. They already exist. I just help develop them into an actual separate space from just you wearing every hat.
That seems so much easier because, again, you start your business and you're wearing all the hats. Eventually, I know all of us, especially our listeners, typically they're all early stage entrepreneurs. There's going to be a point in time where you're going to have to build and grow a team. You're going to have to figure out how to scale. You mentioned the finances and whatever, that department, because obviously that needs to be tracked. So it's like now your brain feels like it's going to explode because you have to do all these things. But so it is time to take a step back. Like, where do you want to be and create those things to make sure that you're hitting your goals?
Absolutely.
Hey there, listeners. Ever feel like you're struggling to connect with customers or lead your team effectively? That's where soft skills come in.
Entrepreneur Encounter isn't just another podcast. We're a community dedicated to helping early stage entrepreneurs like you master the soft skills that make or break a business.
Technical skills are important, but without communication, collaboration, and confidence, your business might never get off the ground to the next level.
In our membership, Dana and I share actionable insights and tips to help you nurture the soft skills you need to thrive.
Give you access to bonus content, workshops, and a network of like-minded entrepreneurs who are all on the same journey.
We'll teach you how to boost your confidence,
Become a leader who inspires and motivates your team,
navigate conflict like a pro,
to resolve disagreements without drama and build stronger relationships,
communicate clearly and concisely, get your message across, build trust, and close the deal.
If you're ready to take your business to the next level, join the circle by clicking the link in the show notes. I think you say it sounds easy, and to me, I'm just like, I don't think I know how to build operations workflows for 7 departments. I could probably get 2 or 3 where I confidently could map out an operational workflow. The rest, I don't think I would even know where to begin. So I'm just like, I have so many more questions for you just outside of this podcast. Like timeline wise, I'm not an early stage entrepreneur. I've been doing things since 2020. I did start working a full-time job and doing it as a side hustle. Then it became, I went part-time. Like it was a slow, steady growth here. And now that I am doing it full-time, this is the first year, so we're 5 years in, of me trying to step into the actual CEO role. I don't think 7 departments ever crossed my mind.
And it doesn't, but they all genuinely exist. Like we don't sit down and think, how do I want my customers to experience this work? We're thinking, how do I deliver this to my customers so they have a good time? We're thinking from the delivery spot, right? Which is, take a moment. This is perfect because you're in marketing. How many times do you encourage people who are in marketing to have the conversation of, there's what you do, but there's what they need. When you market, what are you marketing? What they need, right?
Yes.
So that they hit the pain point and they go, oh, you're speaking to my soul. Let me hire you to solve this pain point problem for me. So you've changed it. Whereas a lot of people, especially us, like people like me who are very analytical and working at a lot of details, I'm like, well, I can build you out this automated system between Airtable and Dubsado. And then I'm like, they don't care about that. They want to know they're going to save time. So there's that separation. As people who are building our businesses, we're not always sitting on the side of like, okay, what do they want to experience? What does it look like if I'm the employee or if I'm the customer? What's my onboarding like if I want to bring somebody on to my team? We're not sitting in their seat. We're sitting in our seat and thinking this is overwhelming. So a lot of times it's really about goal setting. And I have one pitch, one like big soapbox I stand on like every year when it's like goal setting season is goals are not metrics. Goals are not, I want to bring 7 figures into my company. I encourage people so hard to set emotional goals. And the reason I say this, and for your situation perfectly aligns here, because the goal we think we want is, oh, I want to hit this number. I want to have this size team. I want to do this. But like in reality, you're really looking for stability. You're looking for a consistent revenue, consistent income. You're looking to maybe provide jobs for 3 to 4 people consistently and not worry about whether or not you can pay them. You're looking to have a house in 3 years or to move to another country. These are goals. And the reason I say you to do that is because these metrics are objectives that you want to achieve. And sometimes we don't hit them. And sometimes we need a new plan. And guess what happens when we don't do that? If our goals are, oh my gosh, I want to hit $1 million, and then we don't, we're sad. We're disappointed. We think we're failing. So I shift this. And the reason I say that is maybe you don't have workforce or finances. Maybe you don't know how that department needs to run. But because our goals are more, I need stability, then the question is, okay, as your DOO, what role do we need to put in place? Like your money, you have no visibility. It sounds like we really need a bookkeeper. Let's get you a bookkeeper this year. That'll be our Q1 goal. You see how now we can go any direction. You don't have to write it and then hire someone to work in your company. We're going to look for a bookkeeper who has their own processes and who step into your company, help you refine it, organize it, or we'll hire you a CFO. But because our goal is I'm looking for stability and these are the areas that are blurry, so how do I fix that? We're now going to find whatever path best aligns with how you operate naturally.
I love that. You are speaking to my soul when you say stability. Like wholeheartedly, that was the hardest thing of going from working for someone else, but for myself is I was like, I have a stable paycheck every 2 weeks. I know what it's going to be. At the time I was balancing that and 7 clients. And so I was always working. I was always tired. So my now husband literally kicked me off a ledge and was like, you're doing this full time. I will support you. He sent the email for me, to be completely honest. He wrote and was like, just hit send. That was how invested he was. Thank goodness. But within 3 months of doing that, I lost half of my clients. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get a job. Oh no, what am I doing? Oh my gosh. So that's finding stability and figuring out what that means. Stability, I feel like needs to be said for everyone is different. So for me, I just don't want to have to stress. I like having all my bills on autopilot. Like I don't want to think about it. If I have to think about it, it's going to be late. I'll be like, oh, I need to pay that. And then I'm going to get distracted and it will not get paid. And then I'll get a call and I'm like, oh crap, let me pay you real quick. I love having things on auto draft. So stability for me is to make enough money that I can do that and not stress about it. Like it's just out of my brain space. I don't have to think about it. I can do whatever else I want. I don't need to make $1 million to do that. Just enough. Like that's, I guess, my goal at the end is to make enough money consistently to do that.
So if I were your DOO right now and I were to step in, you were to tell me like, that is just the thing you're struggling with. That's the goal. My first projects that start to pop up in my head and that I would start planning out over the course of the next year is going to include, okay, number one, we need to know our target revenue based off how much money you need to take home. Because if you need to take home $10,000 a month, $5,000 a month, whatever that number is, then we know that our business can't make that much. It needs to make almost double that, more if you have a team. So it's figuring out that number. So the first thing is profit analysis, revenue targets. Let's set some targets so we know what we're working for this year. That's an objective. Then the next part is, okay, great. Let's look at our pricing. Is our pricing and the number of clients we need with our current pricing achievable? Because if I say, okay, well, I'd like to make 250,000 to hit my goal. I'm a solopreneur and I need 250,000 and I could take home 100K and I would feel really good. Great. But if you're selling at $500, how many clients are we looking for? Are we selling a digital product? Is it your time? How much time do we have there? And then that's when operations starts to creep in because one, we need to up that price. That's a whole, product development. That's the one I missed earlier. That's the whole thing is you have to know the pricing in alignment with your goals. We need to adjust that pricing. Then sometimes that's a project in and of itself is how do we adjust our marketing to align with the price shift? How do we adjust our current clients? So do you see how like a lot of times I find that visionaries jump to this is the goal or this is the number. And I'm the one who's going, okay, here's 7 or 8 things that probably need to be ironed out before we can start working on that thing. And so for me, like just listening to you, it's like, okay, do we know our target revenue based on take home pay and our team size? Do we know how many clients we need with our current offer suite to achieve that? Is it reasonable? And do we need to raise our prices? Okay, once we raise our prices, how do we roll that out in our marketing and shift? Are we tracking our leads and our lead conversion? If we're doing all of those things, I believe that in a year, we can probably start planning for you to make that much money. The great part about having someone in that operation space is typically when they ask these questions and we solve these questions, they're not short term. If I ask you what system do we need, how much time do we need to take off your plate so that the offer that we're selling at $5K doesn't cost you $5,000 of your time and instead cost you 10 hours here and everything's automated here and we're not wasting time on onboarding because we automated that. Great, your offer and your value just went up. Now we need less clients. Now we're hitting our target revenue stream. We're just killing it here. So it's just this like snowball effect of understanding what's missing in your business to solve that big goal of, okay, this is what you'd need to be stable. These are the offers you need to sell at this rate. And this is how many of them we need. And now it's time to sit down for the next 6 months and track your marketing metrics.
I love this. I have these envisioning a table of 7 chairs with every department so we can like get a piece of paper and like label it what department it is and then have sticky notes. I don't know. Because when I plan out things, sometimes I have to step away from the computer and I have to write things down. And there were times when planning out my content, I would get like sticky notes and a big piece of paper and like do it that way. But like now I can see it in a big round table.
100%. And then you need that connector. You need that person, it's just a simplification of like, that's the difference between your director of operations and then like your operations management or your virtual assistant people. Not that they aren't capable of that. And usually it's those soft skills that are in between that level them up into that director. But strategy of how all 7 of those departments need to work, because there's nothing worse than kicking something off for your financial goals and not setting up your marketing team to support it, to not have your product development. If we don't look at products and pricing, and we don't look at margins in our finances, and then we go sell a bunch of stuff without having done the pre-work. Look, I told you, I come from weddings. I've watched many a wedding photographer undersell, undercharge themselves, not make enough money for the amount of hours they spend editing, selling, the consultation calls, the follow-up calls, the let's plan for your wedding calls, the sales calls. They didn't factor any of that in. And then the 20 hours of editing that they didn't count for, and they're charging their weddings at $1,500 or $3,000, like less than $3,000. And they're sitting there like, I'm exhausted. I work every single weekend and I don't feel like I'm making any money because I work all the time. And I'm like, yeah, because you're charging too low because you didn't track how much it costs, how much time you're investing. What's the value of your time? So like, really, there's so many pieces. And you're right. There's 7 people and all the time we're letting them all talk to us in our head, which is how we're all crazy.
I have a flashback to my weddings. Like when I branched out to do it myself, my first full service wedding, I charged less than $1,000. When I tell you, I immediately changed my pricing. It was unreal how fast I changed my pricing because I easily put in 30,000 steps for one wedding, plus all the other things that lead up to it. No, less than $1,000 was not the thing for me to be doing.
Giving me straight up PTSD right now, just thinking about how many weddings that like people did this for. And it's just an easy way to burn out. And it's the same thing for those visionaries. Like creatives and visionaries really have that thing of like, we're really focused on the art. We're really focused on the result. And what we lose track of is how much it takes. Yes, it's easy to discount our time and say, oh, it's only me. Waive it. but you're the most expensive person in this company.
Oh, say that again.
You are the most expensive person here. You're the one with the expertise. You're the one with the ideas. You're the one with the growth plans. You're the one who keeps the business growing and going. There's no one else who's going to come in and tell you what to do next in your business. That's all you. So why are you saying your time's worth $0 when it's obviously worth $250 an hour? So build your business around how much you're worth and not how much you think you're worth.
Time is definitely one of the most valuable resources as entrepreneurs we have because, as you pointed out, we are balancing the 7 hats that we don't even probably realize that we are balancing. And you have to factor that into some sort of time management prioritization framework. Like, that's a whole thing in itself. And I've had to learn that the planning side is still work. So I did a big visionary thing yesterday, mapping out the whole year with like launches of the things that I have, blah, blah, blah. And I really had to keep mentally reminding myself, I am working. I am not working on client work, but I am still working. And this is me working on my business. I did have an anxiety attack beforehand. I felt significantly better now that the planning was done. My time was valuable. And those launches, that revenue goal is not going to happen if I don't take the time to map it out. And I'm just trying to wake up every day and say, oh, what should I do today? I have no idea. I need to map it out.
100%. That's literally what I tell people all the time. Like, my year starts in February because for all of January, I am looking at all of my clients and planning out 12 months because that's where they're at. They're ready to kick off the year. And I'm not handling content or anything, but like every department's going to have their own projects. I just got to know as a company, here's what every department, these are their objectives for each quarter in every department of your business. So I can communicate that to those departments and say, this is what you need to get done. This is what you need to be working on. This software has to go. You need to be rebuilding it before our webinar in April. So this is your Q1 project. Like, we've got to get that cart before horse situation set up. And I spent all of January doing that. And then February 1st, I was like, oh, I forgot I still have emails. But I was just like, it's okay. And that's one thing that I can work on in my business is as I become more involved in other people's business, what do I need? And where's my zone of genius? And what do I need to bring into my team to help me execute without losing my sight of my stuff? So it's implementing CEO days. It's figuring out what I really need if I'm going to do a VA or assistant or coordinator. It's figuring that out. So now I'm doing that for myself. Sure, it's 1 month in, but my clients are happy, so I'll take it.
Talk about the CEO days, right? I had a meeting with one of my clients yesterday, and he was like, can you remind me of these things? Because he forgets things so often, and he needs help staying accountable. Because I meet with the team every week and help them with their things. And I asked him, I was like, do you have a CEO day? Do you have a day where, like, even if it's blocked out for like the first half of the day? He's like, no. I'm like, it needs to happen. You need to do that, because if you want me to remind you of doing these things, when are you going to actually do them? Because I can tell you every day, this needs to get done. This needs to get done. But when are you actually going to do it?
Yeah.
So I was like, you need to do that. She's like, that's not a bad idea.
It's very important to have a dedicated time in your business. It's so easy to get caught up on the client experience and deliverable. Like, you're just worrying about what they get because that's your moneymaker and you want them to have such a good experience that they send more clients your way. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what you do, that's super important. But it's just really easy to get caught up on the fact that, like, you can't market if all you're doing is trying to serve your clients. You can't scale. You can't reconcile your financials. Like, you just can't do anything else if you're not making intentional time as a CEO, as an owner, to work on your business and figure out what needs to keep moving. You'll find that you'll have a successful year, but not feel like you've made growth because all you've done is help other people. And you built a business to build your own legacy. So stop spending all of your time building other people's.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think that's a powerful way to stop. I feel like we could talk to you for over an hour because I could just keep firing questions. I didn't mean to put myself in the hot seat, so I apologize. But this conversation in such a short amount of time has already been packed with so much insight. I know it sparked a lot of questions for me internally, as well as like just things to review, adjust, maybe do like Sarah said and get a table and put 7 Post-it notes just so I can visually see this is what I need in my business. This is what I should have. Who do I have in place, or am I actually working on it? And if not, I need to figure that out. And I'm visual. So I literally will have to sit at a table and be like, okay, what are we doing here? I am that person. So for our listeners that are tuning in and would love to connect with you and learn more, where can they find you?
If they are looking for someone to do everything you just said, Dana, which is take those 7 departments, figure out what needs to happen, and then also come in and start making things happen, I am found on Instagram at Arianna Tenine _DOO, and also on TikTok at Arianna Tenine. That's where I put lots and lots of tips. So come find me and say hi.
We're going to find you on TikTok.
Awesome. Well, all the information is going to be in our show notes. Until next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.